Would you please sit? Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to you all. Thank you for being here today. My name is Mark, and I am a civil celebrant, and it is my honour to be entrusted with this role today to pay the best possible tribute to Brian, Richard, John, Owen. Before we go any further, could I please ask that you make sure that your mobiles are on silent or off? Thank you very much. You are here today to honour Brian's life. Today, the ceremony is being live streamed and recorded, and we welcome all of those friends watching from around the world who are unable to attend in person. Today is an opportunity to join together in taking leave of someone who has been loved and respected. It is hoped that this ceremony will also serve to comfort all of you here today. Shortly, you will hear tributes written by some of Brian's closest friends, a real testament of the love felt for the man we are remembering today. Funerals are sometimes regarded as solemn occasions, but I'm sure Brian would want this to be a joyful celebration of his life and an opportunity to tell the story of that life and reflect on his uniqueness and his special qualities. Brian was an exceptionally popular and beloved character, a very colourful, sociable and generous person, always on hand to offer help to a friend in need. When I suggest sociable, Brian was known to love a party. For many years enjoying celebrating any occasion. He loved to be the centre of attention and would keep people engaged with his stories and his passions. He always showed great interest in everyone and never forgot a birthday. His thoughtful gestures made people's days that just a little bit more special. In 2010, an instant friendship began with Somchai. Meeting almost daily and enjoying holidays, together with Somchai and his partner George, Brian moved into the flat above them in Marine Parade. As neighbours, their friendship grew, a wonderful companionship, supporting each other. With his positive attitude, the support from his many friends and Somchai's daily help, Brian had come through an 8-year battle with myeloma, eventually getting the good news that he was stable, but requiring ongoing treatment. Throughout this time, his life changed little. He enjoyed many parties, cruises, and other trips away, leading as normal life as possible. With George's passing several years ago, Brian was strong for Somchai at this difficult time. They became inseparable, looking after each other. Brian was known as a fighter, but his health began to slowly decline during the past 2 years with heart weakness. Brian was recently admitted to the Royal Sussex County Hospital for a few days only and died on the 3rd of August, in the knowledge that he was loved by all of those friends who were blessed to know him. As Brian would have said, everyone go on. You've come here today to give thanks for knowing Brian and to express gratitude for the days and years shared with him. By remembering the best of Brian, you will cement the memory of him within you, and that will never leave you. Can I please now invite Wizzy up to read this next poem?
Brian wanted this poem read out to all of us. Death is nothing at all. I have only slipped away into the next room. Nothing has happened. Everything remains exactly as it was. I am I and you are you. And the old life that we lived so fondly together is untouched, unchanged. Whatever we were to each other, that we are still. Call me by my old familiar name. Speak of me in the easy way you always used, but no difference into your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity, I can't say, or sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes that we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be ever the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without an effect, without the ghost of a shadow upon it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same as ever it was. There is absolute and unbroken continuity. I can't say this. What is this death but a negligible accident? Why should I be out of mind because I am out of sight? I am but waiting for you for an interval, somewhere very near, just round the corner. All is well. End. Oh. All right.
Thank you, Wizzy. Brian was born to Joan and Bill Owen on the 1st of July 1941 in Anglesey. His father had been killed in action during the Normandy landings in June 1944, along with his brother-in-law and best friend Roy Williams. Brian was raised by his now widowed mum, Joan, and her sister Joyce in a house in Roehampton, provided by Bill's grandfather. Joan eventually remarried Jack Poole from Seaford, but she always kept in touch with Bill's family in North Wales. Throughout his life, Brian was known as a master of improvisation, a skill which suited perfectly when, as a young man, he joined Pan Am at Heathrow. At this time, the aviation industry was still evolving, and the running of operations on the ground was rather haphazard. His fun personality and sense of humour helped to create a great working atmosphere. Whilst working at Pan Am, he had the nickname Fluffy or Fluff, among many nicknames throughout his life. In 1968, along with Derek Ritson, he joined Trans International Airlines at Gatwick, staying with TIA for 19 years. He always took his work seriously, and he carried much responsibility as ground services manager. This job meant that he travelled the globe, from Easter Island to Iran, where he witnessed a ritual sheep slaughter right under the nose of their DC-10, dancing in a grass skirt on a bridge in Barbados, to coordinating the Hajj pilgrimage flights from Nigeria to Jeddah, becoming known to some as the Queen of Kano, for his successful work on this rather difficult contract. Brian's long-term friend Mark Turner says that it was during these Nigerian gigs he also became known as the Doctor. Apparently, a local identified Brian as a doctor, and so, true to character, he reached inside his black pilot's bag and prescribed a tablet a day to the innocent patient. During his time in Gatwick, both he and Derek bought their first houses in Red Hill, their new homes filled with flight attendant lodgers. He was instrumental in organising regular parties, included outrageous fancy dress themes, such as an Hawaiian party, decorated with authentic palm leaves and leis, brought in specially on an empty ferry flight direct from Honolulu. After his time with TIA, he moved to Dan Air. During this time, he was asked to fly out with a charter to Brazil to act as company rep stroke cruise director with no experience required. They joined a Greek Stella cruise ship and travelled up and down the Amazon. This may be the seed of his later passion for cruising. During this time, Derek recalls a Turkish holiday. One evening, he and a number of friends were enjoying drinks on the deck of a gule, anchored off the coast of Bodrum. Suddenly, he saw Bryan approaching on a tender, standing to attention, saluting, dressed in his favourite Russian admiral's white uniform. Noel Coward beat that. His love of fancy dress would continue and include a spectacular 60th birthday celebration at the Pavilion in Brighton. After a contract with American Transair, Bryan got a job at Nyman's Gardens for the National Trust, another position with no experience required. He was no good with tech, and a fault with a new cash register in the reception caused it to start whirring and endlessly spitting out paper, the carry-on style farce causing hysterical laughter from the staff and customers. In 1979, Bryan moved down to Crescent Place in Brighton. After a brief move to New Haven, which he found too quiet and rather seedy, he returned to Crescent Place before his final move to Marine Parade. Throughout this time, he cruised with friends on numerous occasions, travelling worldwide and always insisting on a balcony cabin. He loved the social life aboard, travelling with Princess, Olsen, Cunard, and more recently a favourite ship, P&O's Aurora. Bryan's life was full of highlights. You will hear more later at the reception afterwards. But here is a wonderful anecdote from Kevin Cressard Fitzpatrick, a longtime friend of Bryan's. Some years ago, one Easter, Bryan arranged for a group of us to have a boating canal holiday on the Thames. Unfortunately, the river was flooded and then closed to all boats. So we were stuck for a few days, moored at Goring-on-Thames, and frequented the local pub, the Miller of Mansfield Inn. The first evening, Bryan kept asking other customers and the bar manager and the staff, was it true that the Queen was visiting? Confused, the consensus was that they were not aware of this, but hoping it might be true. The following evening, I accompanied Bryan to the pub and was a little suspicious as he had a rather large bag under his arms. We then had a beer and waited for the others of our group to arrive. Bryan asked me to go to the gents with him in his bag, with one of those naughty smiles and a wink. I was totally unawares, but as Bryan locked himself in a toilet cubicle with his bag, he started to throw his clothes over the cubicle door. After a few moments, the Queen emerged. Bryan, wearing a Queen mask, crown, long white dress, with a blue sash, long white gloves, a small black handbag, and blue high-heeled shoes matching the sash to complete the vision. The entire pub was stunned to see Bryan, the Queen, entering the pub, waving to the bar staff, going to each table to gracefully announce her presence, even going behind the bar to meet the kitchen staff and chefs. It was a huge success. One lady with her guests, celebrating her 60th birthday, was certain Bryan was a Queeniegram arranged by her husband for her birthday. The best of Bryan. Those lucky enough to attend his annual cocktail party would be delighted by the arrival of the Queen, rehearsed to appear to rule Britannia, their true people-person's monarch. In this tribute, I've incorporated memories from several of those close to Bryan: Somchai, Derek, Robert, and Mark. Later at the reception, you will be entertained with more recollections from others, especially Bryan's friend of 55 years, Barry Green. I have been asked to read this next tribute on behalf of Wizzy. Bryan, it's Wizzy talking before you fly off on another adventure. Thank you for being the most wonderful friend anyone could wish for over the past 50 years. I know I don't look it. Thank you for all the magnificent cruises you took me on. We enjoyed the sense of ridiculous, enjoying weird days out, ferry crossings to Dieppe, steam train rides. The craziest trip was to the USA, where we stayed with Martin Hull, who was gentleman's gentleman to this famous horse breeder. I never told you, after a few days, he offered to fly me in his jet to Nashville, and then to his harbour island. I said, I can't. I'm going to Disneyland with Dr. Goat, after we had been to Bimini. I don't think he'd ever been refused before. Edith, Dr. Goat, Brian, you were a born adventurer, the kindest ever, not just to me, but all your friends. I'm missing you already. Fly high, my wonderful friend, and thank you for being you. Wizzy. Could I please now ask Anthony, who has travelled all the way from South Africa to be with us today, to say a few words.
So many stories, I can't keep hope. Ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, thank you all for coming together today to celebrate the life of a truly special man, Brian Owen. It's an honour to be here and share the memories of how Brian changed the course of my life, and how, with his charismatic blend of kindness, humour, he welcomed me into a new chapter. Back in June of '95, I arrived in the UK filled with a mix of excitement, uncertainty, and not much else, just a suitcase and some dreams. As soon as I landed, Brian, ever the generous soul, had arranged a place for me to stay with his good friend Dudley Williams in Cape Town. Now, if you know Brian, you know he didn't just offer a spare room. He offered his home, his warmth, and his hospitality. But true to his practical and witty self, he asked me one question, which he delivered with a twinkle in his eye. What are you planning to do while in the UK, and how will you manage to look after yourself? I was caught slightly off guard, but not for long. Brian, as always, one step ahead, had arranged an interview for me. By the time I arrived on the Saturday, he'd already set up the interview for me at Gatwick Airport with an airline. And by the Thursday, I'd managed to land the job in the airline industry. Looking back, it still feels a bit surreal. Who lands a job in a new country practically within a week of arriving? That was all down to Brian's magic. He had an incredible way of making things happen, quietly orchestrating opportunities without ever making a fuss about it. Those 6 months, originally, I planned to stay with Brian. Well, they turned into 6 years with Brian. 6 wonderful years where I was not only had a roof over my head, but a friend who guided me, encouraged me, and gave me the confidence to dive headfirst into a new career at Gatwick Airport. And what a career it turned out to be. Due to Brian, I ended up working for this company for 24 years, growing, learning, and building something proud, all thanks to Brian. Initial nudge, and let's be honest, a little bit of pressure to pay his rent. Brian was more than just a friend. He was a mentor, a guide, a man who combined generosity with a wicked sense of humour. He had a unique way of helping you while making you laugh, a rare gift that made him so easy to love and impossible to forget. So today, as we remember him, I'm filled with complete gratitude for the countless ways he touched me. His kindness, his humour, and his unwavering support set me on a path I could never have imagined for myself. I owe so much to him of who I am today, and I know I'm not alone in this feeling. We have a saying in South Africa, it's a Zulu term called Ubuntu, and it means I am because of you. So thank you, Brian, for everything You will be deeply missed, but your spirit lives on in all of us who have lucky to have known you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anthony. There will now be some time for you to reflect upon Brian's life and the part that he played in yours. Being very proud of his Welsh heritage, Brian had left a wish that this piece be played at his funeral. This will be accompanied by some photos which may bring back some wonderful memories of Brian. We now come to the time to say farewell to Brian. Brian, you brought great joy, light, and laughter into the lives of your family and friends. You were loved by all who knew you, and you have left everyone with wonderful memories that will never fade. Could I please ask you to stand if you are able? Now may the light of love shine richly on your body, as we commit the body of Brian, Richard, John, Owen to its natural end. In grief at your passing, but with gratitude for your life. May you be forever blessed as you journey on, and reach your final destination in peace, tranquility, and joy. Today, we honour your life. We celebrate your personality and your humour, the brightness and the light that you brought into the lives of all who knew you. As we say farewell to you now, Brian, know that you will be loved and remembered forever. In the words of his friend Mark, I am sure you are planning your next trip amongst the heavenly stars, as we remember and celebrate being a small part of your life here today. God bless Brian, and goodbye for now, or should I say, until we meet again, somewhere in the universe. Please sit. Once again, thank you so much for being here today. Brian was someone who loved a good party. I'm sure he would want you to celebrate in his memory. Therefore, you are invited to a reception at the Malmaison Hotel at the Marina from 4 p.m. onwards, if you can make it down there that quick. This will be an opportunity to share more memories together and perhaps raise a glass or two to toast Brian. I know that his long-term friend of 55 years, Barry, will be celebrating Brian's life with some fun recollections. If you would like to make a private donation in Brian's memory, the charities he wished to benefit are Myeloma UK and the Sussex Heart Charity. Details of how to do this can be found on the back of your order of service. It is a matter for rejoicing that Brian lives on in the lives of his friends, his chosen family. He will be remembered as a living, vital presence who truly made a difference and brought joy to the lives of those around him. That knowledge will bring you comfort. Leave now with peace in your hearts and in charity with one another. When you leave, if I can ask that we all leave by the side door here.